Hey, you cool cats. I'm doing a show on March 27th for the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. It's called Why Am I Like This? Get your tickets now. Jeez, that sounded authentic. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this fantastic episode of the Out on a Limb podcast with the amazing Dean Not Bernie Beirne.
That's a stage name that I wouldn't take, although I do have a history of using bad stage names. You don't know about this, do you?
No, go and kick it off.
So I've only been Dean T Beirne for 2 years of my comedy career. My first year I was the Glasgow Kid, and it sucked. It was awful, and I regret it.
Glasgow Kid. There's
I did it because I didn't want people to mispronounce my name. and I got rid of it like within the first year, thankfully.
What was that was your reasoning for getting it? What made you realize that was a terrible idea?
Being friends with Jack Trainer and him telling me every time it was a bad idea.
Just stop it. Stop it. You're not a cowboy. Stop. It doesn't work as well if you're in the Glasgow comedy scene because we're all the Glasgow kids.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of how it works.
Oh god, I've not talked about that in fucking ages.
Oh my god, I just like choked to death there. I have alternate stage names because I do. I've done drag a few times, and I have about 20 wigs up the stairs, and I go by the original one was Gingy Bottle.
Gingy Bottle, okay.
But everybody kept thinking it was Ginger Butthole. Instead of a bottle of ginger.
I'm gonna say that Peter should name his first show that.
Ginger Butthole or Gingy Bottle. And then the next one was Tatty Scone, which is a bit more.
That's more classic, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I found somebody else, like another one that I was going to suggest for somebody who ever joined my drag house would be Freya Bentos. But there's someone I've seen this came on the, like, I don't know, I've just seen them in passing on Instagram, but there's someone called like
Freya Bento, yeah.
Freya Bento.
I will hold my thoughts because I do not want to incriminate myself again on another comic. So.
Okay. It's literally just this podcast, the last podcast has just been a hit list that he has of people and it's all been recorded. I say that to everybody. I'm like, you can tell me whatever you want. That's fine, but whatever you say, you can tell me to cut it if it's really bad. But yeah, it's
basically all I'll say on that is
we're girls doing a podcast about stand-up comedy. It's Out on a Limb.
So yes, Dean is back to talk more about himself because he's a total egotist. Clearly, it's not questions.
I'm the worst.
It's like, look at that hair. It's just desperate for attention. It says me. But yeah, I'm going to ask you more questions about different things that you hath done, and that's really selling it for the people who are going to listen for more than 30 seconds. I'm going to say it again. He's been on TV. We're going to learn about TV stuff. We mere mortals who have not been on TV now get to know the deep insights of whether Rosie Jones is a cunt or not. That's how not to get booked ever. Like,
no, she's genuinely one of the loveliest people in the world to work with. Honestly, I've really got all the time in the world for Rosie.
Because she's got that TV money. That's why. We're going to talk about all of that stuff and basically about the weird world of comedy and your Fringe show. I want to talk about that and voice acting, which I also have some things to say.
Oh yeah.
So let's fucking get into it. So I've said fave gig, but I think we talked about that in the last episode, so I've got that twice. Why did you start doing comedy?
It was the only type of performance that I hadn't given a try. You know, I'd been a voice actor for years. I'd been in bands, I'd written books, I'd voiced audio books and stuff, and I knew I'd regret not doing stand-up if I never gave it a try, so went out and gave it a shot. had fun with it, stuck with it ever since, more or less, really.
That's fucking awesome because that's, I mean, very relatable. I've done everything under the sun, and comedy was the only one that was like in the back of my head going, go on, you should go do that. And then you're like, I can't do that. I'll be terrible. People will laugh at me. That's the idea. Like, but thinking that, and I mean, I still like that voice of like, you're not funny, don't go out and do it. Every single time I come off stage, I'm like, you're not funny.
The imposter syndrome just gets into you, doesn't it?
It's like, I thank God for the friends I have in comedy who, when I say to them, God, I don't know if this is for me, they go, shut the fuck up. It's hard for everybody. You're learning. You have to keep at it. Because it is. It's just exhausting.
Yeah, it's a grind, but if you want to be good at it, you need to do the grind.
Yeah. And it's like, I go through this same thought of like, no, this is as good as I'm going to be. I'm just not that funny. And then I go, but look how much you've already improved already. And like, there are people who've been doing this for like 10, like they say 10 years, don't they? 10 years on the circuit of performing all the time.
There's people who've been going for 10 years and still suck.
Yeah. I don't want to do 10 years if I'm going to suck. That's the thing.
Yeah, but those are the people who don't ever do the grind and just think that they've been going for 10 years, that they should be getting pro spots when like they haven't showed that they're worthy of doing pro spots yet. Like they spent 10 years just being stagnant and not like working to get better.
I think like it's constantly challenging yourself is the thing, like, because I'm talking about doing a show for the festival, and it's like, well, how can you do 10 minutes right now, how can you do like half an hour with a support on top of that for the festival and stuff? And it's kind of like, well, I'm going to do that because I'm going to support myself in doing it, make it a challenge for myself, but I'm not forcing myself onto somebody else's bill and saying I'm worthy of doing half an hour. It's like
you're running it yourself.
Yeah,
like
it's a means to push myself and hope that it's good, and then it can prove, if other people are like, oh yeah, that was good, then I'm like, okay, well maybe I could do 20 minutes. Like, yeah, like maybe there's something in there, because I've already from, I mean, so November is when I started, not even at a year yet, 10 months, and the kind of progression, it's almost like you have to, it's like a constant process, and it's never like it's not growing. You never like going up the way. It's like you go, because like as soon as you write new material, if it's not tested, doesn't matter if you're like on the world stage. The reason why everybody goes and does like their 5 spots, even if they're massively successful, is because you don't know it's funny until you do it to somebody else. So it doesn't have this natural curve of, obviously you do get better at writing better jokes off the
your joke writing will improve as you know, like the rhythm of it, and like as if you're watching enough and learning enough and being honest with yourself and knowing when to cut stuff and when to rewrite stuff and when to give maybe a line that you've gotten bored of or a joke you've gotten bored of a little bit of an extra push. You need to be really aware of all of these things.
It's very constant, because that thing as well of, I feel like, why did that joke work so well before and it doesn't really work now? It's like, well, I'm kind of bored of it, and that's why I don't believe it's funny anymore, so they can't believe it's funny.
And part of the job is like finding a way to make that fun for yourself again. And also recognizing that your job is to go out and entertain people. Like, even if you're bored of it, you have to deliver it like it's the first time delivering it, and you're excited for them to hear it. Otherwise, they'll be able to smell that you don't care.
Yeah. And I think especially if you feel like you're repeating the same 5, I find that really quickly, as I was like, ugh, I'm getting bored of this. But then I could go and do, in my head, what is the same 5, but is actually, if you look to my first 5, is not the same at all. Like, it's got maybe like 3 or 4 lines that are the same in it, but it's developed and improved and stuff. That 5 I now will enjoy doing, because I've like worked on it to improve it again. But once again, if it starts to like stagnate a bit, you're like, well, that's how you get better, as you go back and you look at it and you go, those jokes, they get the big laughs. that one's kind of iffy. Maybe rather than doing a rule of 3 there, I'm going to change that into just one line with a punch at the end of it, and maybe I can tie another 2 jokes in before it from somewhere else, and it suddenly is like nothing like what you started with. How do you go about like writing stuff? Like, what's your personal day-to-day process?
I don't really have a process for it. Like, I'll come up with ideas for stuff that's just like, oh, I think either that's a funny moment from my life, or it's an observation I find funny, or just like wanting to do a joke about a subject, and then I'll be thinking like, okay, it's not enough to just want to do a joke about that. You got to find a way to make it relatable. And sometimes it'll just be naturally relatable anyway if it's something that like everyone has an experience with. So like I'm working with doing a bit about roadworks right now because they're fucking everywhere. You know, they're like fucking you can't escape them. Fucking
no, Glasgow especially is just
yeah. I did have a line for it where it was like roadworks. Yeah, my grandfather used to say roadworks are like horny pansexuals fucking everywhere.
Anytime somebody talks about roadworks, my head just goes roadworks ahead. I sure hope it does. Fucking meme. So is the temptation as well to just steal memes and shoehorn them in because that's the best part.
Actually, when I try and like force myself to write, it never really works all the time. I think the best jokes I've had have been the ones that I've had the idea for the routine or like the concept in my head, and I'm just out for a walk, and then just a line pops into my head, and I think, oh, that's funny. I'll write that down before I forget it.
Yeah. So is your phone notes just like full of
Oh,
random
Jesus
shit?
Christ. My phone notes are ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're like the records at a bank. Like, it's so...
I have I have a joke that's about... I say you don't want to see the consequences of breaking one of my pinky promises. I have a folder in my Google Drive titled The Past, and you don't want to be in there. That is based on like a true thing, which is I no longer have the folder because I finally grew up and just like...
That's like the phone version of the book from Mean Girls. Like...
But it was like because I'd have all these folders of like photographs of my friends, and then I'd fall out with them, and I'd put them in the
just
past.
burn them. Like a ritual.
So, my mate pointed out that it was a bit like Dennis Reynolds' level of psychoticness, and I thought maybe that's fair. So I deconstructed the past. But my Google Drive is like organized in that intense way. So like I'm my folder, I have like in comedy, I have a bunch of obviously subfolders of like photographs and footage and things that I filmed. And then I have one of sets, and then I have every variation of that set that I have ever written, the one that I currently use, and then like different ones I'm working on, and then ideas. And in ideas is things I've started to work a little bit on. And then in my phone is just like a massive, massive document of just every funny thing I ever think. I just like throw it in there. And then when I want to write, I just start pulling them out and go, okay, well, how can I...
seeing where they fit and all that.
Yeah. It's like I need to kind of... I remember thinking like years ago when I was like, oh, I would love to do stand-up. Like being like, oh, I always remember funny stuff, but I can never actually remember it enough to write it. And then it wasn't until I actually started doing this, I'm like, there's constantly a stream of funny available to you. But I could probably just sit and write all day, every day, if I really like gave the time to it. But unfortunately, you have to actually live a life. So do you, if you're like developing, what would you say is kind of the longest you do now, set wise?
Between 15 and 20. Yeah.
And so how did you go about building that? Did you like...
started off with like a 5 that had maybe like 3 to 4 laughs in it, and then just working on adding more laughs to that until it was really solid. Then so on and so on until it was a 10 and a 15, and then it's not quite a solid 20 yet, but I'm working on that's something that you'll just find as you start writing more. You know, you can't really be confining yourself to set lengths. You just got to keep writing and then take what works from all the stuff that you've written and then just find a way to condense it into a set.
I felt like from maybe a couple of months ago, the difference in me is before I was trying to write to Times, whereas now I feel much more confident in that I'll go, do you know what? I'm going to just add in that joke today and I'm going to take that bit out. And like even last night as I rewrote a joke in my head just before I went on, and it definitely improved it just by like cutting out an extra sentence that I would normally say. And yeah, it's such a constant like trial and error thing of like a lot of the jokes that I have at the moment have came even just from the past, don't know, like the me doing that Fringe run for like 8 days. I just like learned so much by just making little stupid extra jokes to the audience and going, oh, that's actually really funny. Because one I notice is I'll say like, last thing you need at the end of the world is rich idiots. And a lot of time people don't know that, like, a lot of time people will laugh. They'll be like, that's, yeah, of course. If you don't get a laugh from that, one thing I found at the Fringe was just going, all right, didn't realize I was in a room full of Tories. And then they all laugh. And then you go, but it is Edinburgh. And then they all laugh again, and you're like, suddenly that nothing became 2 laughs, and then you've not even said a joke yet. Like, you've just made commentary. And that's something that's really easy to, like, when you're doing a 5, 5s are set. There's so little time. You've just kind of got to go through it. When you get to 10, you've got a bit more wiggle room to enjoy it a little bit more and experiment a little bit more and make things up and move things about on the fly, which is the hardest bit, I think.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you have memory problems, like, because I do.
Yeah, no, but that's all part and parcel of the job, though. Like, you have to know it, and even if you don't like, you can't. I don't think you can be doing a routine to a script. You know, it needs to feel alive in the moment as well.
Yeah. Because some of the things I've noticed as well is like, I'm like, oh, I keep saying that with that exact vocal pattern, and actually maybe it would be funnier if I did a different vocal pattern, like if I didn't go up at the end of it but I went down, like tonally, like maybe that will be better. And quite often it is, but it's very easy to get
you're bringing like iambic pentameter into his comedy.
What's that?
That's how the thing Shakespeare does for how his lines sound.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. Like going proper thinking out the intonation of it is, I think, like, it's such a big part of making people laugh is like going up at that point and then the reveal, boom, dropping it. Because unless you're Jack D, you know, you need to be like colorful and.
There's only one Jack D.
Yeah. Unless you're Amanda Dwyer. And then there's Amanda Dwyer.
She is fantastic as well. Like, she's got a really unique style to her that is I personally would find really hard to pull off. Deadpan is so difficult. I love that she's obviously not like that. She's a very friendly, like person, open, happy person. But she like goes up there and it's so. I think I like met her a few times before I actually saw her perform, and when she performed I was like, this is jarring, like this is so different than what I was expecting, and she just does that really well. She gives off like depressed new mum energy, like postpartum energy. I mean that in really the best way. Is it's nice to have like a woman not have to go up on stage and be like, ha 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 ha, and actually just to be like, everything's fucking depressing, isn't it? You're like, yes it is. Because I find that, like myself, I find like a lot of time people just can't necessarily get what I'm putting across because I look so. So it's like, ha ha ha, death and misery. And people are like, what? Call the fucking police. Yeah. As opposed to it being like, oh, death and misery, and then people go, ha ha ha, and you're like, what? But just, that's the fun. Like, Viv said that to me. I was like, that was when I started to figure out my shtick, where she said to me, what I really like about your comedy is that you have this sweet, like, lovely thing that's coming over, and then you're saying this really horrible shit. I'm like, yeah, I suppose that is the bit. It's like if Alice in Wonderland hung out at the cat house.
Yeah, which is actually just the game Alice Madness Returns from American McG, which McG as well. That works. Anyway, I feel like I've rabbited quite a bit there. It's my podcast. Fuck off, Dean. I'm still laughing as well. I read that why did you start comedy? I'm still laughing at the idea of you going up and just doing a 15-minute set your first time.
I didn't know about set times. I was young and naive.
Like, I can't blame you, because like I remember going and doing the course and being like, Viv saying, so you'll be doing 5 minutes. I was like, 5 minutes?
Because the keg was an open mic and it's just designed for like bands doing 3 songs at a time, so they didn't care that it was 15 minutes.
It's like the idea of doing 15 minutes of comedy right off the bat is just like, even now I could go and do 15 minutes, but I think I'd be like, it would be a loose 15 for sure. So what is kind of like your ultimate goal of doing comedy then?
Just be able to make it my job, really. Like if I can just keep doing it and make a living from doing it and get to work with amazing creative people, then I'd be happy with that. Like, that's where I would love to get to. Like, I don't know, if we're talking like ultimate dream, I'd love to do the Kings again, but it'd be under my name. Like, I think that would probably be the ultimate dream, you know, like, because like got to do that for BBC New Comedy Awards, then get to come back and do it on your own show. But that would be something that is like years down the line, you know.
I mean, it's not unfeasible for you. Obviously, like Mark and Stuart and all that have done like and obviously Darren was going to be at the Pavilion, but
the Pavilion fucked him over.
But like it's not unfeasible. You're really making a good name for yourself, and I think you definitely have the kind of comedy that permits that. You don't have this small town comedy thing. You have like there's audiences for you all over the world for sure. Like that's a feasible goal.
Just be able to make it a career. That's really all I would want to do.
I mean, that's like, even that's very good. Like, if you managed to do that, that would be fucking brilliant. Because I would love to do that. It all fits in with like the kind of goal of just being able to live off being creative would be great.
Yeah.
Like, just on its own, without having, incorporating any kind of bullshit actual work and being able to just like write and draw and create stuff all day would just be the tits. Like
doing that as the work, because like there is work that goes into all of those creative things. Like you can't be looking at things like, oh, I just want to be creative and get paid for it, as I just want to have fun the whole time. Like there is a work ethic that you need.
When is being creative ever fun? Creatives are the most depressed and stressed out people. Like we're like being relaxed about being creative is for elderly people. That's the truth. Big giant juice. I did a really weird thing yesterday where I went on stage. And I was like really hoping that they would crack at it, but because that audience was really quiet, and we were on we were on a gig yesterday together. But what I did was I went up and I was like, because you write an opener joke kind of as you're there, and I came up with like 3, and my tired and not very well brain picked the wrong one. And I went up and said, obviously I've got this big giant bottle of juice, and I'm like, you're never supposed to bring something on stage unless you address it. And I said, so I'm going to address it right now, and then just started drinking from it, and probably about 40 seconds of me drinking from it. And some people were starting to crack and starting to laugh a little bit. But there was also just like quite a lot of like the room just like looking at me, and I just was like, well, and if I'd thought of like a good joke in the time, like to actually punchline it with, then maybe I'd have got something, but my shattered brain didn't do that. And so I just was like, I told you it wasn't a joke. And then I kind of got a bit of a laugh out of it, but it was a strange start to what then landed up being a quite mediocre 10 minutes of my life. There's one guy who's loving it. Just one guy. And I was just like, you, my man, we're friends.
Was the fella in the front row?
No, actually, like the whole front row was like very dead for me. Like, just were they very good for you?
They were all right. I was just trying to make eye contact properly.
Yeah, me too. It's just hard anyway. Yeah. And then they're like, it's like, Jesus. It's like, hello. And you're like, it was very close. Like, they were really close. And that just does not make for an easy.
No, it's not. But it's part of the job. It's just you got to learn to roll with the stuff that doesn't go well as the stuff that does go well.
Yeah. I'm just suddenly looking at this. I think it's still la 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 la.
Yeah, it looks like it stopped.
Right. Apologies for that brief interlude of terrible audio, but you'll have been on phone audio there because everything cut out again. C'est la vie. We're back in. We're back here. What were we talking about? We were talking about your ultimate goal of being at the King's Theatre, and that I think that's a very, very achievable goal for you. You put in a lot of time. How often do you think, like, how many times a month do you gig?
Ooh, I try and gig 4 or 5 times a week if I can.
Bloody hell. How do you even get, like, is there even that many shows?
I'm just like, sleep is the enemy.
Yeah.
I get plenty of time to sleep when you're dead.
Yeah. I'm already, I feel like I'm approaching death already, so I feel like...
Yeah, but just like being able to make it a career would be the ultimate goal. If I could get to do the Kings on top of that, that would be awesome.
Yes, that is like the ultimate. I think that's also a really great thing if you are like a Scottish kid who loves theatre and you've been going to the Kings your whole life, and it's like the Kings is...
Yeah, exactly.
All that stage room to...
Yeah, and if I can't do my own show there, I'll maybe play a character there.
That's a good idea. You can do that because you are studying acting now.
Yeah.
That is so. Is that, when did you start that then?
Last week.
Literally last week.
Yeah, but I've been in shows before. Like I played The Wizard of Oz last year. I've done voice acting for ages, and I've done like community theatre and that when I was at uni, and I've always loved it. It's just like a really cool collaborative process, and there's a great camaraderie in doing theatre with a bunch of other people, and it's just something I really enjoy doing, like losing yourself in a character. Yeah,
I think like theatre is one of those ones that is unlike comedy where generally people are quite nice. Theatre is like 80% assholes who seem nice and then 20% really awesome people.
I've luckily only worked with the 20%. I've not met the assholes yet.
You are so lucky because I've been doing theatre like since I was like 7, I think, and generally just on and off throughout life. And usually you meet nice people, but most people will like try and steal your theatre company out from under you, or they will genuinely go proper I am Tonya about things and like break somebody's knee. Like a lot of people are genuinely mad in theatre.
Those pesky kids.
Those pesky wild egomaniac children. That's really what it is, to be honest. But yeah, so like, is that just as part of the goal of being the paid creative? Like, pretty
much, yeah. If I can get paid doing something I love, then that would be great.
Yeah. Is it for theatrical work as opposed to screen like stage work?
I don't know. I don't think that's something you can control, and I think you've got to be good at both of them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like I feel like television craft is much more natural, and that if you have it, you have it. Theatre, I think you can learn more, but I think like being able to act on screen, you need to have a capacity for subtle emotion that I mean, I guess like comedy is the same. Again, is it's just like you can...
Theatre's like acoustic guitar, and screen is like electric guitar. they're both very different things and that require different skills.
Yeah, totally. And to be able to reflect different emotions for near and far people.
Yeah.
It's very different. Because I was always given that critique when I was younger. It was like, what you're doing is very realistic, but nobody can see it because you're on a stage. So if you want to cry, you don't want to go. You want to go, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. so voice acting, is that something that you've done a lot of then?
Yeah, just like independent projects and stuff that people make up. There was a lot of them during COVID because you get a lot of people who want to like adapt either books they like or comic books they like, and then they'll be casting on like a lot of these sites, putting them up on their own channels. And I did a couple during lockdown that were really fun. Did one for Spider-Man, who is my favorite fictional character, and that was really fun. Did the Joker for another company that were making like unproduced scripts that for comic book movies, or taking an existing script for one that exists and putting it in a different universe. So the one I did was the 89 Batman movie with Michael Keaton, but it was set in the Snyderverse of DC films. So I was playing the Jared Leto Joker, but doing the Jack Nicholson Joker lines. I hate the Jared Leto Joker.
That's fair,
so
yeah.
that was an acting challenge.
So what was your Joker voice then?
It's just like if I can think of a line I was saying, like oh yeah, when you, just like my plastic surgeon always said, when you gotta go with a smile.
That was very good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to replicate Jared Leto for that.
Yeah, which is not so fun.
He's the worst Joker, but like I was getting paid for it. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting paid to be an artist. I better just do what I can with it.
And what was Spider-Man? What was your Spider-Man voice then?
He's just kind of like a really happy, go-lucky American kid from Queens, you know, like, hey, I'm Spider-Man. That's more like Peter Parker, but like, Spider-Man is just like, if I can think of a line he says from like a cartoon or something, like, I know I usually have these in the back of my head. But
as soon as someone asks you, though, it's
like
panic stations.
Oh, something he does. It'll come to me. It's just like, I don't know, say if he's fighting a villain or something, like. I don't know.
Yeah, like why can't I feel like I have these. There's gonna be someone listening to this like screaming.
Yeah.
Come on, it's so obvious.
Whoa there, Slinky. Mr. Osborne here just helped save your life.
That's so good. I love that because it's like I found like so recently. Sorry, that was like 4 sentences. Recently I decided I was going to try and do some voice acting. And I was recording some bits, and I want to get into it as a thing. But I was just going through all these different voices, and it's like it's really hard to remove your own awareness of your own voice. Because if you were watching on a screen, you would never hear your own voice, and you would like not think about it. But then when you're like listening to it, doesn't matter if it's not your accent, like you can still hear your own tone. It's like trying to remove yourself from that. I did like a cool, I just described it as like Adventure Kid one or something, and it was like it isn't about being brave, it's about doing what's right. I loved it. It's like, and I did a Bluey one, and I did a whole script from Bluey, and I was like, you know, I'll learn something today, Dad. It's not about telling people what they want, what you want them to hear. It's about what they need to hear.
That's very endearing sounding.
So it was like a wee cute one. And then there are other ones were all like very camp mad things like, oh, you might think that we're all, that this is just another one of my crazy inventions, but no, this is different. It's the Megatron 5000. It's just like, I want to find a way to do these because I love doing voices. That's why I love Larry Dean.
I love doing villain ones as well. Like I used to be able to do Green Goblin pretty well. Like that is like you really have to just completely go straight into the guy because he's like he's very impish and like he's like, oh, we all wear masks, Spider-Man, but which one is real? The one that hides your face or the one that is your face?
You're so good at that. I love it. Is you so rarely meet people who really go into accents and like do the full silly thing. Because I can't do impressions at all. Like I can't copy people's.
Well, that's
voices.
good. You don't want to parrot people.
Yeah.
Like you just want to think of like what's this character like, and then bring yourself into it.
Yeah. It's this. I guess
unless they're asking for you to be a certain version of a character.
Yes. Yeah. I suppose you're trying to then implement that aspect of it, but it's all. I feel like it's probably largely going to sound like you. I can do it with vocals, strangely, like, and I'm not going to try and do it with this voice today, but like I can do like a strangely good Tom Jones. A really good Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, because I've listened to Green Day my whole life, so it's like in there. But like I can copy people's singing voices, but I can't actually just like speaking voices. I'm just
There's one that might shock you is I can do a really good Mickey Mouse sometimes if I really put myself into it. I am the head of an evil corporation. Ha 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 ha!
That's the one that I'm the mascot of an evil corporation. Ha ha!
Everyone's gonna make a horror movie about me one day.
Oh,
there's that Steamboat
sure.
Mickey thing. Oh, I was a lot better when I was on that boat because I could probably drown.
Me and my mate always have this thing of Mickey Mouse, and it's like you're walking down and suddenly you see something in an alley and you see this like bobbing character.
Mickey Mouse is a piece of shit.
I
play Kingdom Hearts. I know how much of a hack he is.
he's a hack. He is the worst. He's bobbing down this alleyway just well, hi there, little fella. Then you walk down the alleyway, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's definitely a horrible thing. There's also relates to the To Catch a Predator episode with the Mickey Mouse.
Oh yeah.
Pedo.
The Mickey Mouse.
I didn't
pedo.
know she was 12. Or she told me she was 13. So that's still a predator. I didn't know. That fucking cracks me up.
Ugh, gosh, he fucking freaks me out, Mickey Mouse.
Just as a general character. I think it's probably the association with just Disney.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're awful.
Yeah, Disney, please hire me.
Mm.
I'd like to fight someone with a lightsaber at some point.
Yeah. Sponsor the podcast, Disney Plus, $6.99 a month. That's
with the amount you're doing for your raised prices, it's the least you could do. You fucking. Ugh.
Raging, it went up like £4 or something. I was like, that's like twice what I was paying for it. That's horrendous. So what else? Yeah, like how did the Fringe go? How was your I was going to talk. Originally we'd had this booked in before, so I was going to try and rush it out to get you some promo to the 6 listeners, as I said. But yeah, so you did the 5th to the 11th at Boteco de Brazil.
I did, yeah, and it was a good week. You know, I was glad I had Kyle and Alan there with me to like join in the madness, and then other comics that we asked to do it when like Alan was unfortunately ill for some of the dates, and we had a good time. We just treated it as like let's just go out there, do the best we can, basically really challenge ourselves to like speak for longer and to get our sets to a really good place. Had some really good sold out rooms during the weekend of it, but the Fringe this year was a lot different. Like there was a lot, like especially in that location when you're right next to the underbelly and people are going there to see like more established acts and stuff like that. It's hard to like flyer for your own thing there, and especially in that area where I kept getting into like flyering wars with people armed with bubble guns and improv groups and guys banging drums and shit. Like the Fringe tends to bring out the worst in me, really.
Not for you.
No, I don't like the flyering side of it, you know, but I enjoy the performing side of it.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully you would not have to do the flyering.
I'm not like Obi, where he really loves the flyering side of it.
Yeah, I feel like Obi is like, that's his thing though, isn't it? It's just like
talking, because he's a very personable kind of guy.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm just like, I need to focus on getting my fucking show right.
I have this terrible politeness thing as well, where like I can't tell people to stop talking. So like if I'm trying to prepare for something, somebody just keeps talking at me, I'll just be like, yeah, conversation, and then I'll have a really shit gig because I've not like zoned in. And
yeah, there's an element of that to comedy for sure. Like you need to know how to be in the zone, but also you need to know how to switch off at certain points.
I'm trying to think, so because I walked past Boteco, but like my brain can't compute where I actually was. was that what kind of? You said near the Underbelly, but I was near Underbelly at Cowgate.
Oh, it's
But I think there
the
was
one
two
that
of them.
was like Bristol Square.
Yes.
It's kind of like where like I think there's a university there usually, but Boteco's just like it's a Brazilian restaurant with a really good basement. It was a good room for us for sure, but like I don't know, it did come with its own challenges as well. You know, like you're in an area where it's going to be populated with a much more established acts. And also the people walking through it, they tend to just be either on their way to a show at the Grass Market or Cowgate or something like that, and they're not going to stop in the middle of it. But you work with what you've got, essentially, with the Fringe.
As I found a really good flyering spot that was between, like, you know, at that roundabout at Cowgate and onto Grass Market. It was just round from there where you're not on the big stretch where people are really just like kind of stressed out and want to get through.
Aye.
And effectively you're between some bins and a roundabout, but it was like a good spot because people were coming by and you could do like a big loud pitch, or you could just actually just talk to someone and say, hey, this is the show that I'm flying for, because I was doing it for just to sort of pay my way. So that I could actually afford to eat while I was there.
The food trucks there are amazing.
I didn't actually get anything from that. Like everything was from just, I largely ate Greg's. I was like, I don't have the money for this.
You didn't go get like a fancy mac and cheese?
No, I had a bento a few times, which was nice. It was still nice, but you're like £14 for like a very small meal, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, start crying.
Yeah. It was Fringe was a really good experience, but it was like, I've been in previous years as a viewer, and it was very quiet. It was like Glasgow on like a Thursday afternoon. Like, it did not feel busy. And that was the feedback I got as well from a lot of the people, like, because I'm like, obviously flying for stuff, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm the best flyer in the world, but I know I'm not bad. I've seen other people do it, and I know I'm like... You're
probably better than I am at it.
It's like, I do a good, hello, roll on up kind of pitch. And yeah, you can hand out so many flyers, and people will still just not go. And it's like... Yeah. To be honest, every time someone was disappointed with their sales, I would go, hey, remember, 6 is the average. Like 6, which is pathetic. Playing to a room of 6 people, I could just walk in anywhere. Anywhere and play to 6 people. And you're like, you've paid $3,000 to play at the Fringe. You're playing to 6 people.
Yeah, it's, it is what it is. Just got to learn to roll with it, really.
Yeah. You don't do it for the money. That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
I was so you had sold out at the weekend then?
Yeah.
And then was it generally all right throughout the other days?
The other days it was a bit of a hit or a miss, or sometimes we had to adapt and take them into the booths at Boteco instead of going in like the basement room, and that was actually like the most fun we had, was just chatting in the booth with them.
Was it like literally like...
Yeah, just like the booth in Boteco where it's like a karaoke booth, we just took them in there.
To be fair, like all of the venues at the City Cafe were all like karaoke booth size, so like it actually makes for a nice cozy.
Yeah, it's nice and fun. Yeah. We rolled with it, and it would have been a lot worse if we had tried to like put those people in the big space.
And then because then it's not gonna echo back to them in the same way. Did you guys do it then where you was doing like 15 each?
Pretty much, yeah. Changed it up to like between 15 each, and then having a host on the weekends just so we could like make it feel like an actual show.
Oh, that's very cool. And it was was that your first Fringe performance then? Like, not as a individual, but like, well, yes, as a...
No, I'd done it for 2 years before that.
So you had your own shows?
We'd always done compilations and like split bills and stuff, just because it's easier when you're when you have that much experience.
Less loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go up and do like a Fringe show by myself. I feel like like I say, it's different to the comedy festival because it's like you can keep it quite low key, but whereas I feel like it's so expensive for the Fringe, and I wouldn't do more than a couple of days. Like that, I think like if you're doing like a full run, like, because Beth that we were on, Beth Knight, she did a full run, which is just like amazing, but like crazy for your first time at the Fringe. Like,
I mean, if you've got the talent to do it and you can back it up, fair enough.
Yeah, because hers is so different, because it isn't just her standing there doing comedy. She did it was like a presentation and like an interactive art exhibit, I kept saying, and an art history lesson all at the same time, but it was also funny. I really enjoyed her show. I thought it was very nice. It was a very good one. So yeah, let's. How long have we been going now? Let's see. Too long. No. So yeah. Let's finish it off then with TV. That's
TV.
What it's coming back to TV. So first, you said obviously that you were on the BBC New Comedy with Daniel, and that was like a really good support. What was it like the experience as a whole? Was it as you'd expected it to be, or
it was honestly not that much different to going to do a club gig, but the only difference is cameras are rolling and you have like cues and stuff to get on, and like sometimes you'll have to redo bits of your set if they didn't quite catch it, or like maybe they want to refilm a certain section of it. And other than that, it's just basically like going out and doing comedy in a theater room, but you just got cameras on you, and there's a part of you that thinks like, oh, there's cameras on me now, I've got to act in a certain way. But then I think when you do that, and you start like trying to perform to the camera, it can look a little bit off.
Yeah, because you're doing comedy for an audience.
Yeah, I tried to just focus on like one person in the audience and just use that to keep me grounded in the room, and then just performed it as if I was at the stand or something like that. It was very different for doing the final though, because you're not just in any old theater, you're at the King's, and you have to bring a little bit of a theatricality to it, and
to fill the space,
go out there, just do the best you can. And I feel like I did do the best I could at that moment. I didn't win the BBC New Comedy Awards. That was it was Joe Walters who won it, who he closed, I opened, and he's like a big just ball of energy as well, so he filled out that space perfectly. And then doing it for Rosie Jones down at the Shaw Theatre in London, that was not too dissimilar to BBC New Comedy Awards, but the competition element of it was gone, so it was a lot easier. All I had to think about was just go on, do your set the best you can. You've done this before, and forget about the cameras, and hope that you look good when it comes out, because it's not your job necessarily to control everything and make sure that you look good. That's why the TV crew's there. That's why the producers are there, and they booked you for a reason. So
I mean, that one must have been really exciting, because it wasn't like you, well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't like you'd submitted yourself for it and then got picked up, was it?
No, I got asked to do it from the producers of BBC New Comedy Awards.
That's great, because then they've went, well, we know you're good, you know what you'd be good for. Your disability being foster care or something.
Yeah, because they cut out the joke where I mentioned my autism. Because I didn't want to go on and just do like an entire autism set, because that's not very creatively challenging to me, and I would just find that dull to perform. So I thought I'll do that Matilda joke, because I think it's a funny joke, and it mentions autism in a very offhanded way. They cut that joke out, and now it does look like my disability is being fostered.
So do you think that did they cut it out because they didn't want you to?
I think it's cut for time.
Right.
Is the thing, because they loved the joke when I sent in, because when you get booked for these things, you have to send in your set as a submission. They have to okay it, and maybe ask you to swap some like words around or something like that. And it's a collaborative process, so you have to be on board with it. And then I think they just cut that joke for time.
That's just unfortunate, isn't it? But I get what you mean about writing a bit about autism or whatever. Yeah, you could sit and you could make jokes about, for me, for ADHD, but then what are you saying that 80,000 other TikTokers haven't said at the moment in time? Do you know? It's such a hot button thing that is everybody's talking about it. And I don't know if this is maybe I almost steer away from relatability in some way, because I feel like I don't want to become generic of what's happening in
Mhm.
It's like a fine line.
I get that. You've got to find a mix of it though. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, your job is to go out and relate to an audience and make them
Mhm.
laugh to the best way you can. And also within that, you've got to find where you stand out and what makes you unique. Because if you're just doing what any other comic would say, then you're not going to get progress. You're just going to get kind of lost in the sea of them. You got to. I've always found like take what's unique about you, but don't indulge in it so much. Don't do it as if you're like, oh, this grand tragic story or whatever. You got to find a way to take what's unique about you and almost like channel and focus it to making it palatable and relatable to an audience.
That's definitely challenging, because how do you make the painful things funny? And because one thing I really want to talk about is my mum dying, which is like, how is that funny? Other than just like 1,000,001 mum jokes being ruined, but like, I want to talk about it and do it in a funny way.
Your mama's so dead, she's not here anymore.
That's how it works. I always have a load of them though. It's things like, oh, I pissed off my mum so much. So my mum, we scattered her at Loch Lomond, and I always say that like when I do something that would piss her off, like the entire loch just flipped over. And it's like how to do all these things without having to constantly go, you can laugh, I know she's dead. Like, just so you know.
Well, that's a personal thing you've got to find, really. Like,
Yeah.
if you were comparing it to a loch, I would instantly think, like, oh, it's like Poseidon's wrath.
Yeah,
Or
like
a storm or something like that.
yeah, I could do, yeah, like, yeah. ideas coming to mind. It's a tough thing, but that's at the end of the day what people what they cling to. And I think like it's a really I mean, Mark did it. Like, Mark Jennings has a full big thing on losing his mum, and he does it in a very witty and funny way. And it's like about taking those relatable things, letting people know that they can laugh at it, and then also actually being funny at the same time.
But also not using it as a way to be indulgent.
Mhm.
Like, that's something you could easily fall into if you're getting very personal on stage.
Yeah.
And like, I think channeling it and focusing it into something relatable is like, that's what your job is.
Yeah. Comedy.
Yeah.
Do you know, one thing is, and I always forget to do this because I say like, oh, this is the thing that we do, but then I always forget to do it, is so the snack that you had never tried before. One, you also were welcome to break into that Lucasade at any point. I just forgot to
I assumed they were just your snacks for later.
No, they were specifically yours. I cued them in. So you'd said you didn't like digestive milk chocolate biscuits because they were too sweet.
Yeah.
Strange thing for a young person to say.
My palate is more sophisticated now.
You just say, if it's not foie gras, it's nothing.
Oh, I hate foie gras.
Oh,
nah,
yeah, it's gross.
the way they make it is fucking
Oh,
vile.
yeah. I had ethical foie gras, which is when they don't force feed them.
They just make them fat.
Yeah, which I mean they'll do anyway.
Take them to the fucking world buffet down in Redford. Like, have at it, geese.
Just go. Yeah, they feed them with the same feed or whatever, but they're allowed to eat as much as they want, is the kind of thing. I don't know if it's that ethical. I wasn't a big fan. It tasted gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It was like I like pate. I like things like that, but
it's disgusting. It's awful.
Yeah. You know that? Have you heard that one where it's like the baby bird?
Oh,
and
yeah.
your shame is that you have to eat it under a hood because it's so immoral. Bones and all.
This has become a vegan propaganda podcast.
Yeah. I assume you're not vegan, seeing as you suggested
vegan,
digestive milk chocolate biscuits, but there.
Yes, they are here.
You crack in, and we'll have a biscuity biscuit, and you can to be fair, every one of these that I've done, the best reaction has been Chris Mitchell-Lay saying, I'm going to show you me eating a licorice allsort, and I'm going to try and hide my reaction. Thank you. And then I did a close-up of his reaction, and the whole time his face is going.
All right, so I'm about to try and relive all the childhood memories that were lost to me in the foster home.
All right, Tracy Beaker. I love that show.
See, it's nice. It's just so sweet. Like,
what do you eat?
it's just like, I can tell it tastes artificial, and it's like way too sweet.
Just like pure chewing into this now, like.
Yeah.
You're right. It does actually have glucose fructose syrup in it.
That's what I'm tasting. Glucose.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a glucose drink here as well.
Not sweet enough.
No.
Too sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, because I thought it was interesting you went for the original.
Original flavor Lucozade. It's the best flavor Lucozade. I will stand by it.
That's fair. I can't. I have only ever, I think, drunk the pink one, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had much Lucozade in my life.
See, towards the end it gets a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
but it always just feels like a massive sugar hit.
I think it's so funny because I think there's very few people in the Western world, anyway, who would agree that a milk chocolate digestive is that sweet. It's better if you dip it in tea, to be fair.
Yeah,
A little bitterness.
Like, it does what it says on the tin.
Feel free to have more if you wish. I've just kept you here to starve for the past 2 hours. That's it. That's how we end the episode, is just eating biscuits.
Yeah, I shouldn't have too many of them because I am going for dinner with my friend tonight.
Ooh, where are you going?
I don't know. I was thinking of taking her to Sugo or something like that.
Pasta. Very good.
Hmm.
Very good. I've never been to Sugo, but it's highly recommended.
I like to go and hope that Silas is there so I can annoy him.
That's fair. Yeah, it's cruel, to be honest. Cruel. So is there what is there that you have coming up soon then that you would like to tell the gang about?
Halloween at Blackfriars.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Alan and Kyle are taking Scream Queens there, but we're also bringing a lot of people that have been on the pod before and turning it into a full-on Halloween event. So we've got Chris Thorburn as our opener. Daniel Petrie is going to be doing a 10 as well, and headlining we've got Eleanor Morton, who I think is absolutely hilarious and very funny and fits in with the whole spooky vibe that we've got going on. We want to make it like the best Halloween event happening in Glasgow that night, and Chris has been very kind to us, letting us have the room. Hopefully we can sell it out. Tickets are hopefully out by the time you've heard this, so yeah, we'll be promoting that dead soon if Charlie's got my poster brief right now. But like,
just like subtle nudge in there, like get a move on. No, that sounds very cool. I will. What day is it?
On Halloween, so Thursday.
On actual Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
so Thursday. If you didn't hear that through the biscuits,
You can bring costumes. You can wear the costumes as well, but like, don't just bring them and leave them there. But like,
yeah, just bring them packaged in box. Yeah, you should definitely have a costume contest or something, like all the.
yeah, we did. We used to do so. Like for the last 2 years, we've done it at Tenants, and we are doing another one at Tenants this year as well on the 28th, where we've got Kate Hammer opening and Ryan Cullen headlining.
Awesome.
But none of us are performing on that one. We're just putting on people that we like, and that'll be on the 28th. And then on the 31st, we'll actually be performing at it and just like making a really good Halloween comedy event.
Being a bunch of scream queens.
Hell yeah!
I love it. That sounds so good. Well, make sure you get your tickets, get there, make it a sellout, because it's a Thursday night. What are you doing on a Thursday night? And it's Halloween.
Tickets are £6.
That's like pennies.
Yeah, we did. I did want to make it £6.66, but it just would get very confusing.
Yeah, in terms of the split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
£6 plus booking fee. I can't control that, sadly, because
Yeah.
Eventbrite to be
Suck.
Eventbrite.
Yeah. They're taking that away as well. They're making it free, so you can actually put them up for free.
Oh, good.
So that's all good. Because now I have a gig that I've got to go and do that it makes like it's £6 a ticket, but after Eventbrite fees it's like $4.47 a ticket. That we actually get.
What gig are you doing?
It's called Crash Course Cabaret. So it's that you were supposed to be on it, but you had to cancel for some reason.
What?
Months ago.
Oh, this is the one you run.
Yes.
Did you book me for that?
I'm sure I did.
My head's a fucking mess.
It
I
was a
don't know.
long time ago. It would have been like March, so like don't worry about it too much.
Oh, I think I was right in the middle of my dissertation then. That's probably why.
Yeah, it wasn't. You didn't like cancel with 30 seconds notice. Don't worry. You said, "Yeah, I would love to," and then went, "I'm not actually going to be able to do that." It wasn't.
Yeah, something must have come up. I'm actually gonna take another one of these.
That's fine. This is apparently the only size that I could get them in anymore. So it's quite a lot of biscuits. But yeah, let's just round up. Did you enjoy your digestive biscuits then? You've clearly enjoyed them.
Well, you know what? They're growing on me a little bit.
Not too sweet.
This one had a little bit of a salty kick to it, so I was like,
that's
yeah.
nice. That's nice. Getting in there. So, to summarize, what have we talked about? Well, in the last episode, we talked about generic things about comedy, like venues that are fun to play, when and why you started comedy, which was in 2021. And yes, don't forget to get your tickets then for Dean's awesome show, Scream Queens, on Halloween at Blackfriars. And yeah, follow Dean Beirne on, but you have to search Bernie to find him. So go on, give him a follow, do all that stuff. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Kat. This was really fun.
Good. I'm glad you have had fun. I've also had fun. Peace out.
Yes.
It's out on a limb.
Hey, if you dug this episode of Out on a Limb, make sure to subscribe for new episodes every month.